I don't post my gouache illustrations because I think I'm good at them. When I was in school, and a few of my friends are actually following me, they can attest to this. I was crawling in there like days after working through croquis, and I would get C's and B's, and I would be begging to stay in the program basically the entire time. And that was a lot of our experience. It's just the nature when you have a creative degree. You have a semester where you'll have a professor that loves you, he thinks everything's great, and the next semester you'll have another professor that doesn't. And it's all about that tension. I guess I'm thankful that I don't care what like the kind of peanut gallery thinks. It's more so what I think. And when I go into learning a new skill or kind of picking up gouache again, it's definitely not of the mindset that I think I was great the first time. I'm actually revisiting a lot of these fashion skills and techniques because I wasn't great at them the first time. And I want to make sure I didn't miss any steps that could really unlock a new level of creativity for me. Something I noticed in my program was just the vast variation from semester to semester. You could have one semester where you're just getting A's and B's and everything's perfect, and the next semester following the same rubrics and same information and just trying to do your best. Like you would have a C or a D sometimes, even on projects. And that was devastating because everything should be continuous and understandable so that people know what to expect from semester to semester. And it's like the professors never talk to each other. And I say professor loosely because some were professors, some did have higher degrees, and some were not. Some owned stores. I think that's something that is kind of pervasive in a lot of industries where we see the experience as very valuable on the collegiate level. So we want them to pass that information on. But we forget that these people may not have actual technical skill in teaching and instructing. I think we focused a little too hard on like the creative and drawing things just right because on the other side of graduation, the job is emails. The job is running to go get something. The job is purchasing online. The job is calling overseas to make sure something arrives on time. Sometimes you get to go into Illustrator. Those are special days. Those are exciting moments. But, fashion school being a cycle of this semester you're learning sewing and next semester you're learning draping. I think it's just unrealistic. The coursework just didn't match up with what the industry actually wants from you when you get out of college. While it's nice and I love the skills that I have from fashion school, there's no way that I really needed 8 semesters of sewing and draping class when on the other side of graduation, the closest you're getting to actually sewing is if you're actually a machine operator. A lot of my work ended up being more sourcing, contracting, calling people, keeping up with meetings and deadlines and quality control and things like that. And I was in Excel more than I was an illustrator. I was not ever asked to use my gouache painting skills. No one really reached out to see if I could render something properly for them with my Copic markers. So take from that what you will. Fashion school taught me a lot, but it also taught me to question the system. I actually remember one instance in particular, like it just kind of like burns its way into your mind, where I was up for literal days working through a project. We used to have projects where you had to have 100 croquis, which are just the sketches, by the end of the project to turn in along with the finished 10-piece project for drawing class. And I remember drawing those croquis, hair, hands, feet. I remember judging whether or not I have the 10, 20 minutes it took to run to the student union and get some food and run back, if that 10 minutes would make the difference between me hitting the deadline and not. And coming in and like finally dropping the assignment on the pile with everyone else's and being so relieved and so nervous. And then, a week or two later, seeing kind of grades around the room, we had my fully rendered croquis, which 100% not great. When I look back at them, it's so embarrassing. But I agree with the grade I received. However, there were other people in the class, one girl in particular, and she would turn in things with no rendering, no marker rendering. And I just remember thinking, like, how did she not fail? They asked us for color. They asked us for 100 iterations of designs and things like that in our sketchbook. So how did she pass? The rubric is right there. Did you do 100 croquis? Yes or no? 10 points or 0 points. It was very clear to me. And that just wasn't the case. She passed just fine. So that was one of those things that was surprising to me where they're hiring people who want to teach, but not necessarily people who can and who understand like academic integrity. They're just people with a job sometimes as opposed to people with a mission. And that's where I think a lot of fashion schools are missing the mark. And out of all of this, I think that the crazy part to me is like how much I thought at the time that like the grading system was right. I just must be confused at the system. I need to try to work better within the system. All those different things go through your head. And then 15 years on the other side of it, you realize I was probably a little right in my frustration to assume that things were not quite right. What I was wrong about is that I was not talented. I think what we forget as adults is that when we're in a position of authority, leadership, mentorship in any capacity, we need to realize that our actions have meaning. Fashion is just business. And that's what I learned on the other side of fashion school. And luckily for me, I had a minor in marketing. Otherwise, I would have been completely useless in the workforce because you don't learn those skills in fashion school. I would strongly encourage anyone who's pursuing a fashion degree specifically to study business. Take accounting, take economics, take all of the things you don't want to take because you're so creative. And I promise you, you'll be surprised at how many A's and B's you get in those classes and how easy they come to you, while at the same time, you're on the creative side struggling to get a C. I loved my classmates and I loved my school, but I did not trust how they were shaping us to be designers. And I was right to, because on the other side of graduation, how many of us are actually designers? How many of us are working in customer service? That's the real question. That should be the question we're impressing upon colleges. Tell me what your alumni are doing. And it better be more than two per class that are actually working in a fashion capital in an important role. So when I post my gouache illustrations, just bear with me. They are not me showing you that I am the quintessential fashion illustrator. They're just a means of me reconnecting with the part of fashion that I actually enjoy.